We are back on Get Up and to the big NBA news of the week. Kyrie Irving has rejoined the Brooklyn Nets. He's missed their last 7 games. He practiced yesterday. Coach Steve Nash said he expects Kyrie will play tonight against Cleveland. Here's more from Kyrie.
I'm back. I'm happy to be back. And we got some great pieces, and we just move on. And I let my actions and my game speak for itself like I planned on doing, Just needed a pause. A lot of family and personal stuff going on, so just want to leave it at that.
All right, so that's what he said. Here is Jay Williams on loan to us for a few minutes from KJZ on ESPN Radio. So as you listened to him yesterday and we prepare for his return, Jay Will, what thoughts went through your mind?
As a teammate, if I were his teammate, I wouldn't care what Kyrie Irving said to the media. I wouldn't care how he said it, if he was leaning over or if he was hanging upside down. What mattered to me was that he communicated that and had conversations with his teammates, with his front office, with the guy that actually owns the Brooklyn Nets. That's way more important to me than anything else, that he's committed to what we want to achieve ultimately as a goal to win the world championship. And one of the things, Greeny, that I think we all need to start doing a little bit more, not excusing the type of behavior that we've seen from Kyrie, but the man also has, fulfilled and paid college tuition for 9 HBCU students. Right? He's donated $1.5 million to the WNBA for players that have opted out. He's paid for George Floyd's family's home. There's been a lot of things right now, considering everything that 2020 has brought our way, that he's done for his community. And that's not about the game of basketball, it's about the game of life. Once again, not excusing the behavior of the lack of communication he had and him disappearing for a while, but we all have addressed issues in 2020 with families, this pandemic, and people attacking the U.S. Capitol. It's been a heavy year. As long as we can recognize that for Kyrie Irving and his teammates, if they can understand that, then they move forward.
Yeah, like most things, it's complicated, and he is complicated. But
yes.
Let's go to the simplest part of this, and that is the basketball part of it. We've seen KD and Harden together for 2 games, and they've looked extremely good. How confident are you that Kyrie will slide in and they will just get better?
I feel like it should be easy. Whoever gets the rebound, you go. You push the ball down the court. Kevin Durant operates in such a small space, he doesn't need the ball to be effective. I still move Kyrie Irving off the ball because I think he's more effective in that capacity. And James Harden is averaging 10 assists in his first 2 games. He's been averaging 10 assists this whole season, even though we've been questioning his weight and other things. I let Kyrie attack. I play fast. The Brooklyn Nets also have this whole mantra where 7 seconds or less. They want to get a quick bucket. So if Kyrie gets a rebound, go. If James Harden gets a rebound, go. Same with KD. The question is, when it comes to the end of the game, I think everybody needs to be on the same page about Kevin Durant needs to get it. James Harden, that pecking order is something to pay attention to. How will it work? Will it go KD, James Harden, Kyrie? Will it go KD, Kyrie, James Harden? I think that's the thing to pay attention to in the game or in the shot clock scenarios.
So is that something that can change night to night, or is that something from your experience that has to be in stone? This team, we're going to go 1, 2, and 3, or is that something that can change night to night?
I think when we get to playoffs, I think you'll see that a little bit more in concrete. But I think throughout the course of the regular season, you go to the hot hand. And I think that's the kind of unselfishness that you need with 3 superstars on the same team. If Kyrie's gone off for 40 and KD isn't feeling it, you give the ball to Kyrie. If James Harden is feeling it and he has a triple-double and the ball's in his hands and he's feeling a flow and the rhythm of the game, you go with the guy who's hot at that respective time. But that's a mentality that all 3 of these great superstars are going to need to buy into.
I've been saying forever, I'm in the interesting business. There's nothing more interesting in the sport right now than how these 3 guys come together. KJZ on ESPN Radio. I'll be with you guys 9:30 Eastern today. So, Jay Will, I will see you then. And a reminder, tonight, our NBA. Foxworth is dressed up this morning, looking good. Damian Woody's going to play that piano. Dan Graziano has all the latest insight as we take you inside the biggest story in football, the health of Patrick Mahomes. The Kansas City quarterback remains in the NFL's concussion protocol as we await news on whether or not he'll be able to play in Sunday's AFC Championship game against the Bills. That was the play where he went down this past Sunday, and to this point, he has not officially gotten up. Dan Graziano, my insider, what is the very latest on Mahomes' health and his status for the championship game?
Yeah, the very latest is that as of yesterday, he was progressing through the protocol and people were encouraged. I'm hesitant to lean one way or the other because it's concussion protocol and it's unique to every individual in every situation. So there's no way you can say, oh, so-and-so had a concussion and he was back on the practice field this day, so everything looks good. So far, they're encouraged. But the concussion protocol requires a guy at each stage to not show a recurrence of concussion symptoms. So if he's cleared to practice or cleared to play and then he wakes up the next day with a headache or other concussion symptoms, then he goes right back to the beginning. So at this point, all we can really say is he's progressing through the protocol and will continue to follow as the week goes along and see if he's able to clear it in time to play Sunday.
And to make it 100% clear, in case there is anyone in the audience that doesn't fully understand, this is not going to be his decision. It is not going to be the team's decision, the coach's decision. This is completely out of all of their hands.
Well, what happens is a team doctor can clear him for contact, which would clear him to play in the game. Interesting, quarterbacks aren't contacted in practice. So the first time he'll have contact is a game. But once the team doctor does that, an independent neurological consultant jointly appointed by the league and the NFL Players Association has to sign off on that clearance before he can get out on the field. So yes, the league would have a say in whether he's able to play or not.
Dominique was the president of the Players Association when that rule went in, so we'll talk to him about it in a moment. But first, I want you to hear what Brett Favre said about this yesterday, a guy who obviously played all those years and never missed a game. And he had some interesting comments when it came to Mahomes and what he thinks Patrick should do this weekend.
I played 321 straight games. It kind of goes against everything that I stood for when I played. But you got to be smart. You got to be smart. I was never faced with a decision that he potentially will face this week. And ultimately, the decision may fall on the doctors. And if they choose that he doesn't play, then it's the right move because of long-term damage. And when you're in the moment and you're young, you're bulletproof, man. But I'm 51 years old, and I wonder what tomorrow will bring because of concussions more than anything.
It's jarring to hear, of all people, Brett Favre talking that way. So much here to unpack. Again, Neek and Damian Woody getting up with us this morning. And Dominique, I want to start with you because, again, you were the president of the Players Association when all of these rules about the independent neurologist and everything else came in. And what they are designed for, genuinely or generally, is to protect the player first and foremost from himself, right?
Absolutely. I think the point of having this independent neurologist is so that the player, because the players are always going to want to play in that situation, just like Brett was laying out there. But I think it's important to understand that even when you have an independent neurologist, as much as I want to say and want to take credit for being part of the negotiations that made the game safer, that's true, but it doesn't make it completely safe. So it's not like a broken bone. The independent neurologist is certainly going to be assessing the quarterback based on what he's saying, or the player in any case based on what he's saying. So after a particular vigorous workout, they ask them, do you have a headache? Are you still sensitive to light? So answering those questions honestly or inaccurately is still up to the player to some degree. We don't have all the information. It's not 100% clear, all the symptoms and all the ways that this thing can impact players long term. So I think when Brett Favre, specifically him, someone says something like what he said, it makes me concerned for what he's going through. And it also gives me pause for all players that are exposing themselves to this. We have to understand it's a very serious risk and it's not going away.
No question about it. But then when we sort of focus in on this game this weekend, Damian Woody, you played sort of leading right up to the time where this culture began to change. Do you believe that players' perspective on this has changed? Do you think players, like a player like Patrick Mahomes, we saw him pop up and go running into the locker room. He looked like he wanted to go back on the field last Sunday. Do you think